Hello and welcome. I'm Philip Alexander, Senior Editor of The Banker magazine here at the Financial Times headquarters. I'm speaking to Brian Caplen, the editor of The Banker, about the deal that was signed overnight to try and ensure that Greece remains in the eurozone. Brian, many weeks of long negotiations, fraught negotiations. How much has been resolved with this deal now?
Well, it's obviously been a big climb down for the Greeks. I mean, they held a referendum on the terms and conditions, and they rejected those terms and conditions. Then they've had to go back to the eurozone partners and renegotiate, and they've actually come away with a worse deal. So it's a very humiliating day, I think, for the Greeks. And how much does it resolve? I mean, the reality is that Greece still has a debt to GDP ratio of about 180%, and most economists think that's unsustainable over the long term. So there hasn't been much discussion about debt restructuring. The Germans have always ruled out any form of a haircut, but unless some sort of restructuring follows this deal, then we're going to be back to square one in a few months' time.
And what are the implications for the wider eurozone? Does this stabilise the situation, or is it still also a sort of temporary fix with some of the longer term questions still there?
Well, I certainly think it's a real reality check about what being in the eurozone means. So, I mean, however you look at it, I mean, clearly when you get into debt, you have some loss of sovereignty. But when you get into debt and in a crisis within the eurozone, you really do have a very bad situation where other people are telling you what to do. And if you want to stay in there, as Greece has learned the hard way, you're going to have to take the instructions from other countries, and chiefly Germany. So, I mean, in some ways it illustrates what a big loss of sovereignty the eurozone means. But I think it's also going to mean that countries are going to have to move further along the road to political integration if they want to keep the eurozone project afloat. So what we can't have is a situation again where we have interest rates that are appropriate for one country but inappropriate for another country. We've got to get the economies much closer together so we don't have asset bubbles and a rebuild up of the problems that we saw coming into this crisis.
And of course, the other important question for the Greek citizens themselves at the moment is when their banks are going to reopen. People stuck with being able to withdraw 60 euros a day at the moment and no other access to banking facilities. How soon is that going to change?
Well, obviously we're waiting for an announcement from the European Central Bank. The ECB has been criticised over this last initiative where it restricted the collateral for Greek banks because it appeared to be putting leverage, so therefore the ECB was getting dragged into the political argument. Now we're moving the other way. Hopefully they'll sort that out and start to ease conditions, because otherwise the misery, I'm afraid, is going to continue for both the Greek banks and the Greek people.
Brian, thank you very much.